retail space or in the government space and also in the intelligence space, which has led us to a number of the clearances that we have. And we won a few awards kind of implementing ECM solutions. Being a niche firm specializing in enterprise content management allows us to get some focus and expertise, and that's benefited us with some of these awards. So talk a little bit about the case management history, the product, Armedia Case Management. So one of our first initiatives when we started the company in 2002 was supporting the FBI for a project called Virtual Case File. And ultimately, the FBI was going from a mainframe application to a web-based solution, and they were looking to use Documentum as that platform. Ultimately, about a week or so after we got there, they decided to build a custom application. We spent 3 years on the project. At the end of it, it really kind of started the thinking of, man, I think we can leverage an ECM platform to build case management systems. When you thought about a case within the FBI, there's a file cabinet with folders, different types of documents with different metadata depending on it. And then, of course, there's different security who has access to these documents, but they managed a lot of that stuff in the physical world, right? File cabinet locks and stuff like that. When you think about Alfresco, FileNet, et cetera, very much the same model. Electronic cabinet with folders, with different document types, with metadata, different security rules that you can apply to those things, policies, records management from a retention. FBI has plenty of retention policies depending on what type of case it is. And so records management was a key portion of the project effort. So the work that we did with the FBI really kind of initiated us down this path of building a case management application. The first version of it, since we were very much a Documentum shop, was all Documentum, from the UI through the middle tier to the back end. And so ran with that for a while, worked with a couple other customers like HUD and Consumer Finance Protection Bureau and DHS, got a little bit more experience and said, you know, maybe, and also we started supporting other platforms. How do we start separating out the UI, the business tier from the repository? And we made use of the CMS API, and we developed the Armedia Case Management version 2. 2.0 was very much a framework for us to go to market with. What we thought, based on our experiences, that every one of the case management systems that we implemented were different and from a requirements perspective, and then the usability was very different. So we wanted a framework that allowed us to sit down with a customer and build something very unique for them, but in an accelerated fashion. So within a case, all cases pretty much have documents and folders and container objects, personnel, people that are working the case. And so having modeled those out, we really want to just kind of sit down, build a intuitive UI for them. And so that led us into our Armedia Case Management 2. A couple more customers, OPM, the Army, DOD, Strong Bond, Xerox, led us into, not every customer wants to go through a customization project that may take 6, 12 months, in some cases 24 months to build, depending on the number of requirements, which kind of fed into the thinking of the Armedia Case Management 3, and that's really the product that we want to demonstrate today. We're looking to release it in the first quarter of 2015, so it's kind of a sneak preview, similar to Alfresco 5 to a certain extent, right? It's kind of showing you what's kind of coming down the pipe, but not really available yet as a product. Ultimately, our goal for the Armedia Case Management 3.0 was we wanted a configurable platform. At the end of the day, we wanted to drive as much configuration as possible, get out of the coding business, and ultimately help us to be able to, at least from initiation of a customer, within 3 to 6 months, how do we have something that we can deploy to production? And we do a lot with the government space, and you know, getting an ATO may take 6 months just in itself. So authorization to proceed, to operate rather. So we want to at least have it within 3 to 6 months, something that could go to production if we could work with the security and get the government to say, you can put it in production. The other thing we wanted to do was we wanted to have a product, a solution that it didn't take Armedia's consulting to be engaged with. So the Armedia 2.0 very much was a development platform, framework. Where we're headed now is very much you can get the platform, you go in, you configure it, and pretty much get it up and running. So with that said, as a little backdrop, I want to turn it over to Dave to talk more about the platform and then really give you a demonstration of the framework.
All right. Thanks, James. So what I want to do in the next few slides is to go over what we wanted to build in ACM. The purpose is to make it easier to develop a case management solution. We'll show you our stock investigative application, but it's also meant to be tailored if your organization should require that. So what is an ACM application exactly? Well, obviously it's meant to track cases, events that you have to track from start to end. The case is opened and people work it and then it's closed. What we'll show you is the investigative application that we have, but you could also use it for anything else like electronic personnel files or social services or insurance applications or whatnot. So anything that has a start and gets worked and then ends, and the organization has to track and report on it. So inside the case file, there will be documents, either electronic attachments or form-based files to be the organization record of what happened in the case file. For the investigative application, it might be records of investigative activity with witness interviews or whatnot. And then also there'll be a record of all the work that had to be done to close out the case, a record of all the tasks that were done. And so these are the primary kinds of objects that we'll be tracking in an ACM application. And as we go through the demonstration, we'll show you examples of all those. In the course of making all that happen, every organization that we worked with has had their own kind of workflow requirements. Some of the FBI's workflows could get very complicated in terms of some document types have to be approved by some organizations, and there's always different levels of reviews and whatnot. Every organization has their own kind of standard reports and business intelligence needs to find interesting patterns in the data. People have scheduled reports, and then they also want to be able to run ad hoc reports. So what we try to do in the framework is to make it possible to customize both the workflow and the reports without having to go through an application development cycle. These things ought to be able to be done within the scope of the application. The organization policies in terms of data access control and other kinds of rules, policy changes all the time. So we also wanted to have a way to manage the business rules at runtime. Again, without having to go through the application development cycle. So what we've done with ACM is to try to make all those happen. It's built on top of the Alfresco platform for both the content file storage, also for the records management integration that I'll show you in a few minutes. And again, in terms of being able to customize and shape the application to meet your needs. We really want people to use ACM as a line of business application where people will sign into it in the morning and keep doing their work in it all day unless they're out in the field working, and then they might have to come back in or use it from a mobile device. So that's what we'll show you. In terms of how all this works, so this is my architectural review slide. Again, we have Alfresco as the repository at the bottom. We actually store the structured information in a separate database from Alfresco in order to support the reporting and the analysis and some of the other needs that we have. Integration with email for notifications and also to be able to email into the repository. And the role-based access control is based on what group memberships that the user has. So the authentication and access control is based on a LDAP repository. In the layer above that, you see all the libraries that we're using. For each of the areas that I talked about before, we try to find a library that really does that in a very good way that we can depend on and build on and integrate into a seamless user interface. So activity from Alfresco for the business process management. Rules from JBoss to manage the business rules. We try to keep those in the spreadsheet format that JBoss supports. which is easier for the analysts and the users to understand. And Tahoe for the reports and the data integration and the business analysis. The forms is the Freebo form library that I'll show you an example of in a minute. And Solar, obviously, for the full text search engine. This is all integrated into kind of a seamless user interface through the Spring framework is our integration library with the Mule Enterprise Service Bus to coordinate everything that happens. And then access to all this is through a REST API layer through Spring MVC. So all the data that shows up and all the actions that you can take in the user interface goes through that REST layer, which means so you're not restricted to the ACM user interface. You can call all of our services through your own applications. So that's a little bit about the architecture. Then from here, I'm going to drop out of the slide presentation and go into the application itself. Let me try to get this hooked up where I can use both hands. Again, our purpose with ACM is to be a line of business application. I'm going to show you from 3 different user perspectives. So the first user, I'll log in. Oh, sorry. Let's see. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to log in as an investigative user. And my purpose here is to work these complaints that you see over on the side. The first thing I want to do when I log in the morning is to see if I've had any more work assigned to me. That's the purpose of this task widget on the dashboard. And here are my complaints that I've been working on. The concept of a complaint here is that incidents get called in from users or from the public, and they may or may not be serious enough to convert into a full investigation. So there's a difference in our investigative application between a complaint and a full case. So my job here that I'm acting as here is to go through all these complaints and decide whether they merit being converted into a full investigation or if they should just be closed as a no further action. This is an Angular-based dashboard here. And again, we mean for each user role that comes in to instantly see the things that are the most important to them. So different users will see different widgets. And if we should have to customize ACM for people, then the dashboard widgets will be tailored to meet their needs. So if I wanted to go in and do some work on this complaint here, I can expand this here. The taxonomy of this, the tree view allows me to kind of jump to the parts of the complaint that I'm interested in, the person that called it in, any other people that were involved, any documents that I may have filed in here already. And again, so the purpose of this layout here is to let me go through everything that's in my complaint right now. So if I can view these documents or review the tasks in here. And I also need to record any work I've done. For example, I may have gone out to interview somebody. So here's the list of documents. I can add a document from here. Right now, we only have a report of an investigation document type. We anticipate having many more at some point. Each of these document types are obviously a different form, but they could also have different workflow rules and different business processes and different rules and whatnot attached to it. So if I add a new report of investigation, this is our form engine that comes up here. So it's popped up into a separate window, and I can enter in all the information that I need This here allows me to say who did the work. In this case, it was done by me, but it may have been done by a different person in some organizations. The person doing the recording might not be the person that's done the work. Here, if I have any files, any pictures or audio or video or whatnot to add, I could upload those here. Right now, I'll just go ahead and submit this form. What we want to have happen here is that PDF rendition of this form and also the XML that's kind of behind all these form fields should both be stored within Alfresco. So now that's gone away. So I want to log into the Alfresco side, and I should be able to show you the records management integration that we expect to have happened. So sometimes it takes a second for these things to come in. Here's my new report of investigation. The important things that I want to point out here is that this has already been declared as a record. It's been stored in the correct folder based on the rules that we have. And all this has happened based on me doing something that I would have to do anyway. So it's my responsibility to track all the work I've done in this complaint. And that's the only thing that I really did. And based on the rules that we have in the application, everything that has to have happened within the repository has happened as a side effect of my actual job. So I don't have to think anything about whether this ought to be a record or where it ought to be filed or whatnot. So here we had the PDF rendition. Also in the folder for that complaint, we had the backing XML file too, which we need in case I need to edit this ROI. I can send this XML back into the form engine and be able to update it. And also, as the form is updated and saved, this XML, the history of this XML is a history of what changed. So we can use that to get a good change tracking. So that completes the work that I have to do right now. I reviewed all my work that I have outstanding, and I recorded the work that I've done recently. Perhaps it's my responsibility as well to be on the hotline for new incoming complaints. So that's what I'll show next. And again, by a new complaint, I mean that somebody has called me right now, and as I talk to them, I need to collect some information about them. So even before I record what happened, I need to record everything I can about the person I'm talking to. Everyone I talk to in law enforcement has stories about being on the phone with people, and then they get off the phone, and everything is lost, right? They didn't keep track of who it was or where they called from or whatnot. So the most important thing to capture is everything I can about the person that's calling me, how I can get back in touch with them, perhaps who they work for, where they work and whatnot. So as I fill all this out, so business. And as I'm going through here, again, so we fill this form out to collect everything, and eventually this will create a new folder in Alfresco. And now I know who I've talked to, and now I need to record what actually happened. So perhaps I'm working for a government agency. If this was an inspector general application, this would be all about a fraud, waste, and abuse. And perhaps that's what they're talking about. So this is the information I'm going to collect about what actually happened. And now I also want to collect information about any other people that were involved. Maybe they were a witness, or the person that actually did something that we want to investigate. So I'll put in another one of my Armedia people in here. So this is the same kind of information that we had. So we'll say that Mannix was a witness of whichever happened. We have formerly known as for Mannix as well. Again, if I have any files I need to add, I can add those files. Perhaps I have a picture of people that were involved, so I can upload my own picture here. And perhaps I want to work on this myself. So I'm tester C. So now I have everything I need to collect, right? The person that called in, what actually happened that we need to look at, and the other people that were involved here, and the files I attached. So as I submit here, again, what we expect to have happen in Alfresco is that there should be a new record folder created within the right folder structure. And there should be the form XML in there again, and there should be the picture I added. So this is our new complaint, and again, so here's the picture I added, and again, these got stored in the right place, the right taxonomy. They got declared as records at the right time. The fact that these are declared as records now when I first add them is based on rules that I have in the application. So if you don't want these as records until the documents are approved, then we just change the event that causes the record declaration. In terms of where these things got stored, excuse me, there are rules behind that. I mentioned the rules files before. So this is the rules file that controls both the complaint number and where it gets stored. So if you need to change the complaint number, this current formula here makes it based on the current date and then a numeric complaint ID. And then, so this is the Alfresco folder path here. And again, so if you need to change these or have these reviewed by people, we like having these rules spreadsheet files, since they're much easier than the rules language files for people to review and understand. So now I'm going to jump back from Alfresco into the application. I go back into these complaints, and here's my new complaint here. This complaint list comes from a Solar query. Actually, we have the data access controls embedded into the Solar index, and we find that's the most efficient way to be sure that everything that shows up in this list is actually something that this user has access to. So that's a quick overview of my life as an investigator. Again, what I need to do is to keep track of the work I have assigned to me, to stay on top of all the work I have, to be able to add new documents. If it's my turn on the hotline, I have to enter new complaints that come in. And I can do all these things within the scope of the ACM application, and I never have to leave it to work in anything else. So the customers that we've implemented ACM for, this is what they stay in all day long. So now I want to switch from being an investigator to being a supervisor. So my supervisory user has some other things that they might need to work on. So here's kind of a more supervisor-oriented widget. I also want to keep track of the work that my people are doing. And I can do that by a search over here. This is our quick search widget. So for example, if I want to look at the new work that my team member just answered this hotline call, and if I want to see what they found out, I can search for everything that they're working on. And that comes up here. I can review this new complaint over here. And perhaps as I go through all this information, I review these documents, perhaps there's some extra work that needs to happen in this complaint. And so I can create a task. The tasks that we create are activity standalone tasks here, that they aren't associated with the business process. But I can assign this task to myself. And again, the purpose here is just to be sure that all the work that ought to happen really does happen. Excuse me. And I want this done by Friday. This is a pretty high priority issue, and these are just my task notes. So I save that task, and that's actually stored again within activity and indexed within Solar, and I can view it within the scope of the complaint and whatnot. So here I've gone to monitor the work that my team is doing. I've assigned some new work out. Perhaps I have a question I need to answer from my higher up people, so I can review all of our complaints that are still in draft for the month of September. This user interface here is just from our report engine within this window here. Eventually we hope to have many more of these built-in reports, maybe some more graphical reports and being able to drill down into things and whatnot. But here we just have a basic tabular report that shows everything that's happened. So again, our purpose as a supervisor is both to manage the people that are working for me and also to be able to answer questions from my higher up people, and that's what we've tried to implement. So again, as a supervisor can do everything. Excuse me, they can do everything that they need to do within the application. The last thing that I want to show you is as an admin type. So again, the administrator really has to manage the policies that the organization has. What I'm going to show you here are the access control policies. So we try to have a declarative access control engine in here. And here are these first 4 lines control who can add documents to a complaint when it's active. And perhaps we don't really trust the person approving the complaint to add documents, so we want to turn that off. So then after I make this change, so complaints that come into this active state, now only the complaint owner is able to add documents to it. We expect to have much more administrative control from this panel here. Right now, to update the business processes and the rules, need to upload files to the file system on the app server, but we mean to have that done through this administration control panel here. And again, to have everything to be done to administer this application through this administration control panel. So that concludes what I want to show you. This, again, is the stock investigative application for ACM. We anticipate having other stock flavors of ACM, and also this can be customized to meet any organization's needs. And that is the end of the demo, so we'll go back to the slide deck to finish things up. Thank you. And let me go back to, so is there a way to get back to the?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Dave. So Dave walked through a number of features. So at the end of the day, we have a case management framework that has some core capabilities, being able to create complaints, being able to create case, task, documents. What we showed you was an investigative flavor of the case management tool. The types of document types or forms, et cetera, is all configuration based through the forms engine. We can go in, generate new forms, add attachments to them. We can associate business processes to those. The reports, we're using Pentaho. Pentaho as a report designer. Whatever report you want to generate out of that, ultimately, throughout the customer engagements, you get in, you design the reports for the customer. I know Dave talked about a number of reports we want to do, but we don't spend a lot of time building reports that customers may or may not want, right? So ultimately what we want to do is we have the report engine there. We have the ability to generate reports. We have the ability to have function access control to define who can run whichever reports. Now as part of engagement, we'll implement it for our customers. So what ACM is a configurable case management tool. That's ultimately what we wanted to get to. is as we move from ACM 1.0 to 2.0 to 3.0, how do we get more configuration into the application and allow not only partners to take the product and deploy it, but also customers. We want to facilitate collaboration amongst the stakeholders. We want to be able to adapt to changing business rules. So through the rules engine, the rules file, Dave just showed you a couple of parameters that you can define in there, but ultimately you can define the behavior of the system through the rules. We use activity as the workflow engine underneath the cover. So ultimately defining your business process and then associating that with the document type. Integrates in with records management for just about all the case management implementations we do. The records, the documents that are created are formal business records and therefore need to have some kind of retention policy associated with those to make sure they're not destroyed. And ultimately, we're extending the Alfresco One platform. So leveraging a lot of the capabilities that provided by the platform, but extending it for this business case of providing a case management solution. So with that said, I'll pause now and just take any questions that you guys may have about the product or the presentation.
Thank you, Jimmy.
All right. Well, thank you guys for bearing with us at 4 o'clock. You know, I think it's time for drinks or something like that. So there's no question. Sorry, go ahead.
Freevo. Yes. Can you talk a little bit about how you use that? Or Freevo,
Yeah. It's a web forms engine. The second one that we tried, actually, a major improvement over the first one. And again, the purpose of the forms engine is just to have a reusable library of forms that allows all that you showed. We think the forms are the way that most of the data entry ought to work, because forms are how all of our customers are used to thinking about their applications. And again, it's part of kind of matching the mental model of what the organization's already used to. When I talked to my banker a few times, I took a look at the banking software screen, and I see my information across the top, the same as you saw the complaint information across the top, and then it's just a long list of forms. So all my interactions with the bank are form this and form that. And almost everyone that we talk to has the same concept. So we wanted to have a forms engine to kind of directly match what is already in our customers' minds. So each of our customers' forms that they're used to working with, we can just embed that within a forms library, and it's just an easy transition from whichever that they have now to the new system.
All right, perfect. Now we'll go get some drinks. All right, no, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.